it was so fun to experience the fullness of the surprise. And it felt such a manifestation realized, because when I was thinking about how I wanted to celebrate my 40th, I had written out a list of names and thought about scheduling a dinner. And then I was scheduling our joint party, and life was just so busy. And there was a little part of my inner child that was like, didn't want to face any potential rejection if I invited people and they already had plans or... Hello and welcome back to the Joyous Path to Millions podcast with me, your host, Emily June Wilcox. I have got story time for you today. So before we jump in, just in case you are new to this podcast, first off, thank you for being here and for being drawn to this work. I'm a serial entrepreneur, 7-figure CEO. My husband and I started an e-commerce business, went on to sell millions of dollars of products on Amazon, then also started an agency to help other brands do the same. And after scaling that agency also to 7 figures and I stepped into business coaching. So I spend most of my time helping women to heal their money wounds, to make bank in their businesses, and to truly walk the joyous path to millions. So that's a little bit about me. Thank you for being here. And I'm excited to share this story with you. So to give a little context, you all know, if you've listened for a while, that we've been in the midst of a really full softball season with Faye, who is 9. And as the season was culminating, she was in the playoffs and she's the starting pitcher for her team. She really puts the team on her back in terms of just stepping up, being a leader, being so determined to shut down the other team's offense, being determined to get a hit every at-bat and add some runs to the board for her team. And so we had a busy schedule because we weren't sure how far we would get in the playoffs. And as we continued to go further and further, it was like, oh, we have another practice. Oh, we have another batting cages. Oh, we have to prepare for another game. Like all of these things that we weren't anticipating being on the schedule. And at that time, we were waiting to find out if she made the all-star team. So she had tried out, and we then heard that she did not make the gold team. And there was some drama around that, but I will save it for another day because it's not super relevant to this story. So then there had been rumors about a silver team, but we hadn't heard anything. To back up the story a bit before I proceed and go further, this is all happening beginning of May. And May is a birthday month in our household. So Jeff and I both have May birthdays. He's May 19th. I'm May 23rd. Both of our kids are March birthdays. So those are our 2 birthday months. And this year, it was milestone birthdays for both Jeff and I. I was turning 40. He was turning 50. And we were planning to have a joint birthday party together on May 18th, so the day before his birthday. My parents were going to be in town visiting us for about a week. And he had said, hey, I really want us to have a little time where just the 2 of us are celebrating our birthdays. And so he put this dinner on the calendar for May 8th, which was a Friday. And even when he was scheduling it, it seemed like it was a little odd to me because it wasn't that close to our birthdays. And he was like having to schedule a babysitter to come when the following week my parents were going to be there. But I've had to work on shifting more into my feminine energy of just like receiving and allowing. And so the part of me that wanted to control it or be like, why don't we do it another time? I'm not going to say that wasn't there at all. I think I had mentioned like, hey, we could also do it the following week when my parents are here and could babysit. But nevertheless, he was like, I made the reservation. I have the sitter. It's going to be May 8th. So I just decided to surrender and receive and allow. It's fine. We'll go out and we'll have a nice date night and we'll celebrate our birthdays. So that had been on the calendar for a few weeks. Okay. So now cut back to my story again. So after we found out that Faye didn't make the gold team, there was still a question mark because there were a lot of whispers and rumbles about a silver team being put together. And we knew for sure she would get on the silver team because realistically, she should have been on the gold team. And she was pitching in the playoffs and her team was crushing it and they kept winning. So it was like the all-star tryout had already happened, but now all of the coaches were seeing like, oh, wow, like she's a really good pitcher. And I think people didn't really realize that before the assessment happened. But because the silver team hadn't been formed yet, it was like not only was she already a shoo-in, but it was pretty clear that she would probably be the starting pitcher for the silver team. But days and days are going by, and normally, like, who cares if it takes days to make a decision? But in this case, because the first tournament for All-Stars would start May 17th, it was actually of utmost importance that these decisions be made, that the team be formed, that the uniforms get ordered, because the schedule starts so quickly. It's like by the time the team is selected, you've got less than 2 weeks before your first tournament play. So time is clicking by. And finally, I said our dinner was on May 8th. It was on May 10th. Sorry. Now I'm looking at the calendar. Anyway, so finally, May 8th rolls around, which is a Wednesday, and we get an email saying that Faye has been selected for the All-Star Silver team. So of course she's thrilled and wants to do it. And in the email, it also says, we're having an All-Star banquet on Friday, May 10th. Please RSVP by today to let us know if you'll be there. The other thing that was happening on Friday, May 10th that we hadn't previously anticipated was that her team was going to need to go to the batting cages because they were playing in the championship game on Saturday, May 11th. So when weeks and weeks before Jeff had planned this dinner on Friday, May 10th, it looked wide open. Now, all of a sudden in the 11th hour, we've got batting cages on May 10th, we've got an all-star banquet on May 10th, and we've got a championship softball game on May 11th. So a lot is happening. And I was like, can we just please reschedule this dinner? Like, it feels so stressful. It feels conflicting. I want to support our daughter in going to her very first all-star banquet. And Jeff was like, I really don't want to reschedule the dinner. Like, it was super hard to get reservations. That's part of the reason that we had to get them so early. I really don't want to reschedule it. And I was like, please, can you try? And it's pretty rare for Jeff and I to not see eye to eye at all on something. Like, typically we'll share different point of views, but within a few minutes of talking about it, we're in alignment. But that wasn't happening with this. So he did agree to try and see if he could move it or reschedule it or whatever. Then it's the next day. It's Thursday. And I'm like, hey, did you get this rescheduled? It can't be moved. He's like, but I can move it the time back. So I was like, whew, okay. So essentially we're going to go to batting cages. We're going to have to leave batting cages early, go to the all-star banquet. We need to ask someone to bring Faye home from the all-star banquet because we'll need to leave from the banquet to go to dinner. Meanwhile, there'll be a babysitter at home with JJ. And so when Faye gets dropped off at home, then somebody will be there to watch her. So it really felt like a total whirlwind of things happening. But so much of it was outside of our control because it was dictated by this softball schedule and then by the all-star schedule. And like it all just came about suddenly. So that Friday rolls around and we're just like executing our plan. Like the kids had drum and piano lessons. And right after Faye's piano lesson, I'm telling the instructor like, hey, we're not going to be here when you leave, but there's a babysitter that's here. I'm going to Venmo you money. We leave JJ in the midst of his drum lesson. The babysitter's there. We take Faye to the batting cages. She gets in 20 minutes of practice. We peace out. We go to the all-star banquet. There's a taco truck there. Faye eats, whatever. At some point, they introduce all the teams. They're clapping. They're taking pictures. We're there for all of that. And then we're like, okay, we got to go. So we jet out and leave to head to Manhattan Beach to go to this Mexican restaurant called Esperanza. And if you've ever been to Manhattan Beach before, it's like a lot of the restaurants are like semi-open air. And so you're not like peering into them like through a glass window or like trying to see if it's busy or not. It's totally open. And so then there's some tables where you could just literally like high five the people who are dining as you're like walking past on the sidewalk. So Parking is also notoriously terrible in Manhattan Beach. So we park, I don't know, a quarter mile away, something like that. We're walking so cold and misty and everything. And I had never been to this restaurant before. I'm just walking with Jeff. I'm like assuming he's got Google Maps directions pulled up. So I'm assuming he like figures out where it is. And we're just like walking. And as we're walking by this one restaurant, I'm like, oh, there's JC. Like I see one of my friends. I'm just thinking, oh, let me just say hi to her. Like that's so funny that we would run into each other. And I hear this chorus yelling, surprise. And my brain did not compute. It was like, it wasn't even like time stood still. It was like things were happening and my ability to process them and connect the dots had a major lag. So next thing I know, I'm like hugging JC. Then I'm hugging my friend Shelby. Then my friend Tina appears in front of me and I'm giving her a hug. Then my friend Chelsea, who doesn't even live in the area, and I just give her a hug and I start bawling, crying that she's like right here in front of me. Literally the night before, I had been talking to another friend who asked, have you hung out with Chelsea lately? And I'm like, no. She moved and she's been busy traveling for work and I've tried to call her and it just hasn't even worked to connect and I really miss her and I want to hang out with her again soon. And there she was in front of me. And then it was just like that. It was like friend after friend. There's Leah, there's Roxy, there's Kelly, there's Julie. And yeah, it was just took my mind so long to catch up to the fact that Jeff had been planning a surprise 40th birthday party for me and that all of these women were there to celebrate me. Like, wait, what? I was so overcome with emotion. It was really so sweet and such a delight and also so shocking. There was no part of me that sensed that it was happening or questioned like any of the circumstances surrounding this dinner. And so even during the dinner, even as I'm chatting with all these women and enjoying this insanely delicious meal and just being showered in love, it was like I was still also trying to process the fact that it happened and that it was happening. And even in the days after, it felt very surreal. That's actually probably a perfect adjective to describe it. And maybe it even still feels a bit surreal. My friend Laura was there too. And it was like everyone was in on this secret. And Jeff just gave me a big hug and I'm not staying. I'm just having a drink. I paid for all the drinks for these ladies and I just want you to enjoy yourself. And he said, Laura's kids are at the house. Chelsea's kids are at the house. We're having a big sleepover party over there. So it was like there were all these layers to the surprise as well that I totally was not anticipating. And so even after the dinner, it was like the surprise and the party got to continue because we went back to the house and I got just so many incredible gifts and got to visit with my friends and rehash it all with Jeff. And we were just laughing because you put me through the ringer because I can't believe like you wanted to cancel this dinner so bad or reschedule it. I was like, yeah. And it's comical now. Like it makes the story even better that there was such high drama around it. It turns out he was texting my friend Shelby and he had her in his phone under a different name so I wouldn't accidentally see notifications. And he's like sending out SOS and having to call the restaurant to change the time and having to let all of the women know that our timing is going to be different. And it all worked. My friend Venus came too. She was at the All-Star banquet as well. And so it was like there were so many layers and people that were in on it. And it was so fun to feel surprised and delighted. And particularly, my brain tends to be one where I can see the plot pretty quickly. And it's not a characteristic I necessarily love about myself. I think I used to feel a little bit of pride and you can't trick me, you can't outsmart me. But it's a bit of a curse in some respects because it's not fun to go watch a movie and within 10 minutes, you already have a sense of what's going to happen. And Jeff doesn't have that. So he'll just be enjoying the whole movie. And I'm like, I already saw that coming an hour ago. But one of my spiritual teachers, Paramahansa Yogananda, he was alive in the early 1900s. And there was a time when he traveled to India for a year, maybe it was even a little longer than a year, which was his home country. But he had been living in California. He had set up his spiritual headquarters, Self-Realization Fellowship in Southern California. And then he traveled back to India to visit some of his ashrams there and visit his spiritual teachers and just do a pilgrimage. And while he was gone, some of the key people in the organization here in Southern California bought this beautiful land that he always loved down in Encinitas. It was this cliffside, oceanside, gorgeous property, and they had a retreat center built. And Yogananda was a self-realized master. So he was very connected to source energy, which gives you a lot of, in essence, psychic abilities, right? A lot of omnipresence, omniscience, etc. He would often be telepathically communicating with people. There were just things that he knew. And when he returned from India and they brought him to this Encinitas property and showed him this gorgeous retreat house that was built for him on these bluffs, he was just overcome with joy and delight and appreciation and love. And he said, that Divine Mother was in on the secret. So she kept that information from him. She wouldn't let him see what he would normally have just been able to intuit with his senses. And I felt that way about this surprise party, that was like the divine was in on the secret. And so there was a reason that my spidey sense didn't go off about any of these odd things, like why was it so important that the dinner was on this day? And the fact that it wasn't that close to my birthday at all made me way less suspicious as well. But the party was on May 10th. My birthday wasn't until May 23rd. So I just wasn't even fully in birthday mode. It wasn't even Mother's Day yet. So it was really fun. It was so fun to experience the fullness of the surprise. And it felt such a manifestation realized, because when I was thinking about how I wanted to celebrate my 40th, I had written out a list of names and thought about scheduling a dinner. And then I was scheduling our joint party, and life was just so busy. And there was a little part of my inner child that was didn't want to face any potential rejection if I invited people and they already had plans or it didn't work. And so I didn't do it. And it was done for me, which is so much better. I just got to be in the receiving of it. And everyone was there, everyone plus some, people I didn't even expect were there. And it felt so healing in a way, and so satisfying to my inner child to be see, you do matter. See, people will show up for you. Not only do you get invited to the party, you can be the star of the party, and people will come to your party, and just all of these things that I had little childhood wounds about. I got to put this sweet healing balm of this gorgeous surprise party on them. I really wanted to share all of this selfishly so that I can go back to this episode and remember all of the sweet little details of that magical night. And Tina drove us home in the Range Rover convertible. So we just put the top down, and it was Tina and Chelsea and I. Chelsea had her luggage with her because she had moved a talk that she was giving at an event in Texas so that she could catch an earlier flight, and then had come from the airport straight to the restaurant. And so they were storing her luggage. So we had Chelsea's luggage in the back, our hair waving in the breeze, the seat heaters on, and we're just having so much fun. And then Chelsea was you should open gifts. So then I was opening gifts at the house, and there were so many sweet things that people got me, which also felt so above and beyond. And then Chelsea said, I have a special gift for you, and it's not really wrapped, but here you go. And she hands me this black Chanel package. And I open it up and she's, I know you're not usually into like luxury name brand like purses and stuff, but I just really felt you needed one. And I pull out this gorgeous white quilted leather purse with a gold chain and a gold little Chanel logo on it. It was like, what? She said, it reminded me of your car because the reason I love my Mercedes so much and I bought it was because of the white quilted leather seats. And I'm going to be releasing my Mercedes soon because it's had some issues. And so it felt like such a completion in a way that I got to keep the best part, like the part that I love the most about my Mercedes. But now in this new form, I get to keep it in the form of a purse, which was given to me by one of my best friends on my 40th birthday after this insane surprise party. Like it's just coated with so much receiving, so much overflow and abundance energy that I actually feel that the magic of that night and of that gift is still unfolding in my life. And you know what's wild? It's like I can hardly believe that I am now the person that this happens to. And it's like when we continue to upgrade our inner environment and we continue to do the inner work, the things to fine tune our own life, our environment will begin to match it. So when your environment blows you away, when the people and the circumstances around you are just wanting to shower you with love and with gifts, let that be the evidence that you are inherently worthy of that and that you're a match for it and that it's not like a one-off. You're going to continue to be a match for it and that it's like this and something better. Life is going to continue to get better as your inner environment improves, the external environment improves, and it's an upward spiral of manifestation that continues for the rest of your life. So that's what I'm reminding myself, and I'm reminding you as well. I hope you enjoyed this story. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. Changing the way that we think, feel, and talk about money is up-leveling the planet. I truly believe that. The ripple effect starts with you tuning in, and it spreads when you share this show on Instagram and Facebook. You can tag me at mmakesmoney. And you know what moves the needle the most? Taking just a minute to leave a 5-star review on iTunes. This show isn't free to produce, so let's multiply those dollars invested and help this show reach a bigger audience each week. So thank you in advance for your help. I really appreciate it. And until next time, I'm sending you all the magic money vibes on your joyous path to millions.